Hello and welcome to Talking with Famous People. My name's host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. And I want you to experience the pure joy that is talking with famous people. That's why I'm here tonight with famous person Robert. He's here in spirit only. You can see him there. Silent, invisible, but alive nevertheless. Tonight, rather than wait for a guest, I think I'll start tonight's topic by myself. Topic of ethics and monogamy. What do we do with the fact that human sexuality poses so many ethical challenges for human beings? Or does it even? There are some who would argue that monogamy itself is an outdated concept, that even if it's not the best a human being can reasonably hope to attain, is serial monogamy. That is to say, an ongoing series of monogamous relationships in which each party adheres to the expected behavioral limitations of a relationship and expects reciprocation and like behavioral constraints. That is to say, you don't have sex with other people. So, there are sometimes relationships in which parties are in agreement that it is so-called open, in which case both parties can have sexual intercourse with whomever they wish within the official bounds of the relationship. Sometimes those relationships is not with whomever they wish, but there are certain limitations and or knowledge requirements or something like that. I've never been in such a relationship. I don't feel qualified really to speak on it. I'm not talking about those kind of relationships. If you are involved in some kind of open relationship where neither party is quote unquote required to remain faithful, then that's not what this conversation is about. And that's a separate conversation that is also interesting, but I don't want to muddy the two topics. So, most people who enter into relationships do so aware of the general expectations regarding fidelity and expecting those from a partner and expecting from oneself, presumably, a willingness to abide by those rules. So, the questions then arise when, well, there's a few different kind of questions. Number one, what is this thing called a emotional affair? Or is it possible to cheat emotionally in a relationship? Number two, is it possible to preserve, save, salvage a relationship that has experienced cheating? Again, assuming both parties are operating under standard expectations. And then, lastly, what expectations are reasonable for an individual in terms of longevity of a relationship and permanence of commitment? What does it mean to commit long-term in a relationship? How much are you actually promising? Things like that are also relevant questions here on this topic. Sounds like perhaps another person has joined. Waiting for name has joined. Maybe. If waiting for name or Robert wants to chime in with camera or audio, please do so anytime. I'm currently soliloquizing about relationships and the ethics of monogamy. And I've just finished my thesis, which boils down to 3 primary questions that I think are worth asking and answering. Number 1, is it possible to have an emotional affair with someone? Which indicates that somehow you've been unfaithful even though you've not touched the other person. Number 2, is it possible to salvage a relationship in which cheating has occurred? Regular cheating, not emotional affair cheating. And number 3, what sort of expectations can one reasonably want from another person in terms of long-termedness of a commitment? I would love to hear thoughts from either of the famous people present, Mahogany and or Robert. If either would like to turn on a mic or turn on a camera or just even type something in chat, I'd love to get some input. My first question was about the emotional affair, whether it's possible to have such a thing, to cheat in a emotional sense. My answer to that is not really, probably. Here's the chat. My reasoning being, well, I can understand why one would think it is possible. Let's go from this angle first of all. One expects that there's a level of intimacy attained with a significant other that is not attained with any other person in the world. And it's that level of intimacy, ultimately, that is betrayed. This would be the argument to be made, anyways, that the level of intimacy is betrayed when you share your most secret moments with somebody other than your spouse. I think that would be the argument, anyway. Whether or not that should be the determining factor is another question entirely. I understand why it might be thought to be the determining factor. But at the same time, I think it fails to account for the fact that there are certain like guy things you might talk with a male friend about and not talk with your wife about. And I can't even come up with any examples right now, but I'm sure there are. And I know that wives don't talk to their husbands about everything. So why would it be? It's not really as though you can compare these things on a scale of intimacy. Like, well, that's not really as intimate or more intimate or less intimate. It seems an odd distinction to make there. So, I mean, the notion that, in fact, your significant other is the person with whom you share your most intimate moments is probably true by and large, but not so much a rule as a description of a phenomenon of frequency, not absolutedness, I don't know how to split it out. Okay, so that answered the first question of this on my own here, without any assistance from others. Still to get some more people in, but I think I'm going to put this one up as a beginning of the topic and perhaps segue into further discussion and or further involvement by other people. It seems like my phone's doing something. It could just be my imagination. It's my ex-wife. And that's going to do it for this episode 1 on the issue of relationships and monogamy and ethics. Talking with famous people.